And it's not just the Met. They were absent from all events during King Charles's US visit this week. Royal events, White House events, just a full clean sweep of not there.
Look, we've got to talk about that couple formerly known as royals, Harry and Meghan. They love to share their innermost thoughts and they love media attention, don't they?
The rejections just keep piling up for Harry and Meghan, and this time, it's personal. King Charles himself shut them out of the King's Trust Global Gala. No invite, nothing. While top celebrities got their golden tickets, Harry and Meghan were left sitting in their Montecito mansion, watching an event tied to Harry's own father play out from a distance. Royal blood and all didn't matter. And it doesn't stop there. Reports confirm they were also left off the Met Gala guest list on May 4th, the one event that could have solidified Meghan's status as a real fashion force. She was nowhere near that pink carpet. People have been saying Meghan always tries to steal the spotlight wherever she goes, and that reputation, it may be costing her more than she realizes. King Charles made it crystal clear his US visit was going to be clean, polished, and drama-free. And let's be honest, wherever this duo shows up, chaos tends to follow. So the move was simple: don't invite them at all. Problem solved! Instead, Charles rolled out the red carpet for power players like Anna Wintour, Martha Stewart, Donatella Versace, and Edward Enninful at the King's Trust Gala in New York. A room full of legends, and Harry and Meghan weren't even a thought. King Charles flew across the Atlantic, clinked glasses with fashion royalty, shook hands with Hollywood's biggest names, and still couldn't pick up the phone for his own son living just a 5-hour flight away. Let that sink in.
Wednesday's Global Gala marked the 50th anniversary of the King's Trust and included A-listers like Anna Wintour, Karlie Kloss, Donatella Versace, Martha Stewart, Meghan Fahy, Leo Woodall, Iman, and Nina Dobrev. It was also co-chaired by Lionel Richie, Edward Enninful, and Charlotte Tilbury. Photos from inside the celebration show Richie and the monarch shaking hands, as well as taking turns at the podium.
And if Harry's own father couldn't bring himself to extend an invitation, why would Anna Wintour? She's famously close to the royal family and watched Harry and Meghan drag the institution she deeply admires through the mud. So when people ask why the doors at the Met Gala were also closed, it's really not that hard to connect the dots. In the span of 1 week, two of the biggest events in America sent Harry and Meghan the exact same message: you are not on the list. Cold, calculated, and very much on purpose. If Harry had walked through those doors, he would have been just another face in the crowd. No title, no role, no real reason to be there. The organizers wanted a smooth, polished evening, not one hijacked by the constant noise that follows this couple everywhere they go. This gala is deeply personal to King Charles. It's his charity, his legacy. An invitation to this event means something real, it says. You're trusted, recognized, and still part of the inner circle. Being left out sends an equally powerful message. Harry and Meghan are no longer part of the King's working world, and this gala made that impossible to ignore.
Buckingham Palace says Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will no longer be working members of the royal family. In a statement, Queen Elizabeth said Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be loved members of my family, but she recognizes the challenges and intense scrutiny they've experienced. As a result, Meghan and Harry will no longer receive public funds and will no longer use their titles.
And let's not forget the palace already has enough on its plate dealing with other family controversies. Adding Harry and Meghan into the mix would have turned a prestigious evening into a full-blown media circus. The palace wasn't willing to go there. And you just know they wanted that invite badly. Getting into the King's Trust circle would have been massive for them: fashion connections, philanthropy doors, high society access, the whole package. One invite like that creates a ripple effect. More collabs, more relevance, more opportunities. It could have even cracked open the door to events like the Met Gala. But none of that happened, and that silence speaks volumes. Their absence is being read as both social and institutional distancing. Royal commentators are pointing to the same turning points: the Oprah interview, the Netflix projects, the very public step back from royal duties. These moves created fractures that never fully healed. What once looked like a bold power move, walking away from the royals to build something bigger, is slowly starting to look like a serious miscalculation.
Meghan Markle not invited to the Met Gala again? Shocking. The biggest fashion night of the year. Anna Wintour, Beyonce, billionaires everywhere. And somehow, the future of fashion didn't make the guest list? But I thought you were going into fashion, Meghan. No one assumed that, Megs. Literally no one.
The opportunities they were so confident about are drying up fast. And without that royal stamp of approval, doors just aren't swinging open the way they once did. Then there's the Invictus Games, Harry's passion project. But even that could hit a wall without royal backing. That support isn't just a nice bonus, it's what gives these events their weight, their prestige, their national significance. Strip that away and things get very complicated very fast. The gap between Harry and the royal family isn't just growing, it's widening at a serious pace, and the consequences are stacking up fast. Harry served in Afghanistan. He built a powerful identity around his military service during his working royal years. That was real, that was earned. But after stepping back from royal duties, those ceremonial roles tied to royal representation were stripped away one by one. While King Charles and Prince William are out front, attending ceremonies, carrying the crown's traditions forward, Harry is watching from the sidelines. That's just the reality now. There's a clear...
How they could expect that after all of this time, we would still just be silent if there is an active role that the firm is playing in perpetuating falsehoods about us.
Undeniable line between those who are in and those who stepped out, and Harry is firmly on the outside looking in. Walking away from royal life sounded like freedom at the time, but the true cost? That's becoming impossible to ignore. The invites have dried up. The ceremonies he once stood at proudly are happening without him. The military events that were once a massive part of his identity no longer include him. Turns out, going from senior royal to independent public figure is a whole lot harder than it looked on paper, especially in a world where royal approval still carries serious weight. And the personal side? That may be the most painful part of all. Even when Charles and Harry end up in the same country, a real father and son moment just doesn't seem to happen. Royal duties always come first. Family falls somewhere much further down the list. And any chance at reconciliation keeps getting pushed further and further back. And then there's yet another sore point that's got people talking, and this one might be the most controversial of them all. Harry and Meghan have been doing overseas tours that, let's be real, look a whole lot like royal visits. Full stops in multiple countries, public appearances, meet and greets with locals, photo opportunities that scream royal engagement.
Prince Harry is really keen to get his father involved, which I can tell you now Prince William will not let happen. No.
Critics are saying this goes directly against the agreement they made when they stepped back, that they would not operate as part-time royals. But here they are, doing exactly that, just without the official title attached. The palace reportedly was not pleased about it at all, not even a little bit. And honestly, can you blame them? There's a very specific understanding that was reached when Harry and Meghan made their exit. They couldn't have it both ways. They couldn't walk away from the responsibilities and the institution, and then turn around and use the same playbook the royals use when it suited them. That's not how agreements work. That's not how trust works. And the palace made sure their displeasure was felt, even if it wasn't always said out loud in public. It only threw more fire onto an already blazing situation between Harry and the firm. Every time things seem like they might be cooling down, something like this happens, and the temperature shoots right back up. Sources close to the palace have described the relationship as strained beyond what most people even realize. What the public sees is just the surface. Behind closed doors, the frustration runs much deeper than any carefully worded official statement would ever let on. But here's the kicker that nobody saw coming. Even the Australian public didn't show up for Harry and Meghan the way everyone expected. Australia has historically been one of the warmest, most enthusiastic crowds for the royal family. People line the streets, wave flags, show genuine excitement.
Prince Harry is serving on the front line in Afghanistan with the British Army, and British officials say the third in line to the throne has been in the war-torn country since December. Harry is a lieutenant in the Blues and Royals Regiment. The head of the army says the 23-year-old's conduct has been exemplary.
So when Harry and Meghan touched down expecting that same energy and were met with a noticeably muted response, that was a wake-up call that was hard to ignore. When you can't even generate real buzz in a country that's been traditionally welcoming to anything connected to the crown, something has fundamentally shifted. The star power isn't what it used to be, and that reality is starting to show in ways that can't be spun or managed by any PR team. And the PR situation itself deserves its own conversation. Harry and Meghan have invested heavily in image management since leaving royal life. There have been carefully timed interviews, documentary projects, memoir releases, and strategic public appearances, all designed to shape the narrative in their favor. But at some point, the public starts seeing through the strategy. People are smart. They notice when every move feels calculated. They notice when the timing of a statement or an appearance feels a little too convenient. And when that happens, the authenticity that was supposed to be the whole selling point of their independent brand starts to crack at the edges. Royal observers are now saying this is one of the lowest points in Charles and Harry's relationship ever. And these are people who have spent years, sometimes decades, watching the inner workings of the royal family. They've seen tensions rise and fall. They've seen public feuds and private reconciliations. But what's happening right now between Charles and Harry feels different. It feels less like a temporary rough patch and more like a structural breakdown that won't be fixed with a single phone call or a surprise reunion. There's still a window for reconciliation, but right now, it feels very far away.
The King and Queen's visit to the 9/11 Memorial in New York, then on to Harlem and the New York Public Library rounded off a perfect tour. Meanwhile, Harry is trapped in this odd space where he still wants the status of royalty. This is, of course, while spending most of his time, along with wife Meghan, disrespecting the institution that gave him relevance in the first place.
The gestures that would normally signal a thaw in royal family tensions just aren't appearing. No joint statements, no coordinated appearances, no quiet behind-the-scenes moments that later leak out through sources suggesting things are getting better. The silence itself is loud, and in royal circles, silence is rarely accidental. Some believe Harry is genuinely running out of time to fix things before that gap becomes too wide to ever bridge. Time is a factor that doesn't get discussed enough in this conversation. King Charles is dealing with his own health challenges. The window for a real, meaningful reconciliation, the kind that actually heals something instead of just performing healing for cameras, is not unlimited. Every month that passes without real movement is another month of distance added to an already massive gap. And at some point, distance becomes permanent. Let's talk about what reconciliation would even look like at this stage, because it's genuinely complicated. It's not as simple as Harry picking up the phone and Charles answering. There are layers to this. There are things that were said publicly, in interviews watched by millions of people around the world, that can't just be quietly swept under a palace rug.
Buckingham Palace has confirmed that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will not be returning as working members of the royal family. Prince Harry and Meghan stepped down from royal duties last year and moved to the United States.
There are accusations and revelations that landed like grenades in the middle of a family that was already under enormous pressure. Walking that back, or even just moving past it, requires a level of humility and willingness from both sides that hasn't been publicly visible in a long time. Harry's memoir was a turning point that many royal insiders say changed things permanently. The level of detail, the personal stories, the way certain family members were portrayed, it crossed lines that royals simply do not cross. There is an unspoken code within the institution. You protect the family. You do not air the private moments, the arguments, the vulnerabilities of people who share your blood in a book sold in airports around the world. Harry didn't just bend that rule, he shattered it. And for people like King Charles, who has dedicated his entire life to the institution and its traditions. That kind of public exposure cuts deep in ways that don't just heal with time. And Meghan's role in all of this continues to be one of the most debated topics in royal commentary. Supporters argue that she was treated unfairly from the beginning, that the institution never truly accepted her, and that everything that followed was a reaction to being pushed out rather than a deliberate act of destruction. Critics, on the other hand,
Sky News contributor Louise Roberts compares this royal trip to the recent phony Sussex tour of Australia.
This week's US visit has been a triumph for King Charles. It has also been a fairly humiliating reminder of the difference between the monarchy and Montecito.
Point to a pattern of behaviour they say shows someone who wanted the platform and the prestige of royal life without any of the constraints that come with it. The truth, as always, probably lives somewhere in the complicated middle, but the debate itself shows no signs of slowing down. What's particularly striking is how the public perception of Harry has shifted over the years. When he first stepped back from royal duties alongside Meghan, there was a significant portion of the public that was sympathetic. People understood wanting privacy. People understood feeling suffocated by an institution as rigid and demanding as the British monarchy. There was genuine goodwill. But that goodwill has been slowly chipped away with every interview, every project, every public statement that felt like another round of grievances being aired. Sympathy has a shelf life, and for many people, that shelf has started to look pretty empty. The Invictus Games remain Harry's most powerful legacy, and the one project that still commands genuine respect across the board. Veterans, military families, and supporters from all political backgrounds have praised the Games for what they represent and what they've accomplished. But even here, the shadow of his fractured royal relationships is starting to create complications. The Games need support, institutional backing, and the kind of credibility that royal connections provide. Without that royal seal of approval, fundraising becomes harder, partnerships become more difficult to secure, and the long-term future of the project faces questions it didn't used to face. It's worth stepping back and looking at the bigger picture of what Harry and Meghan were trying to build when they left.
You mean on any given day, the surrounds of the Opera House have got more people there than we saw for Harry and Meghan. It's like people avoided the area to avoid them. And there was that footage from Bondi Beach where people are just, suntanning whilst the media pack walks through.
That woman's my new hero.
This is like, leave us alone. We're at the beach. We don't want to see this spectacle. The level of interest was almost zero here.
Yeah, look, you see bigger crowds, trying to get petrol at the petrol station when the word about panic buying has gone around.
The vision, at least as they presented it, was a kind of independent royal adjacent brand, using the recognition and goodwill they had built up to create something new, a platform for causes they cared about, content partnerships, speaking engagements, and a life lived on their own terms. On paper, it sounded genuinely exciting. In practice, the execution has been messy, the reception has been mixed, and the foundation they were counting on, that reservoir of public goodwill and royal adjacent credibility, has been significantly eroded. Netflix deals, Spotify partnerships that ended before they really began, projects that were announced with fanfare and then quietly faded. The trail of unfinished or underperforming ventures tells its own story. Building a brand from scratch is hard enough. Building one while simultaneously being at war with one of the most powerful and established institutions in the world is a different challenge entirely. And it's starting to look like Harry and Meghan may have underestimated just how much of their appeal was tied to the very institution they walked away from. The finances behind their independent operation have also been a topic of serious speculation. Moving from a life fully funded by the royal family to self-sufficiency requires either a massive income or a very careful burn rate. Reports suggesting cracks in their financial situation have circulated repeatedly, and while nothing has been officially confirmed, the pattern of deals that haven't materialized into the kind of empire they were building toward raises genuine questions about the sustainability of their current path. Meanwhile, back in the UK, life inside the palace continues, and it continues without Harry and Meghan. Prince William and Princess Catherine have stepped fully into their roles as the future of the monarchy. Their public appearances are polished, their charitable work is visible and respected, and their family life at least is presented to the public projects stability and dedication to duty. Every time William and Catherine appear at an event looking unified and purposeful, it creates an unavoidable contrast with the chaos and controversy that seems to follow Harry and Meghan wherever they go. The coronation was a moment that many hoped might serve as a reset, a chance for the family to come together publicly and signal at least a surface-level peace. Harry attended, briefly, without Meghan. He sat in the third row. He left almost immediately after the ceremony. It was technically a presence, but it felt like anything but a reunion. It felt like a transaction: show up, be seen, leave before things get complicated. And that image of Harry sitting slightly apart and departing quickly became a symbol of exactly where things stand. Close enough to still be connected, far enough apart to make the distance impossible to miss. King Charles, for his part, has shown incredible restraint in how he publicly handles the situation. He doesn't take the bait when media tries to get a reaction. He doesn't issue statements that escalate things. He shows up, does his work, represents the crown, and keeps the focus on the institution rather than the family drama. Whether that restraint reflects a genuine desire to leave the door open, or whether it's simply the only dignified option available to a reigning monarch, is something only he truly knows. But the discipline is undeniable. Some royal commentators have pointed out that Charles has spent much of his life waiting and preparing for the role he now holds. He is not going to allow the narrative of his reign to be defined by a family feud. His legacy is being written right now, and he is very intentional about what goes into it. Inviting Harry and Meghan into his carefully curated US visit would have introduced a variable he simply wasn't willing to manage. The decision to exclude them wasn't emotional, it was strategic, and it sent a message that landed loud and clear on both sides of the Atlantic. There are people close to Harry who genuinely believe a reconciliation is still possible, and that it may come from an unexpected moment rather than a planned diplomatic effort. Sometimes in families, it's not the grand gestures that break through, it's a quiet phone call at the right moment, a health scare that cuts through the noise, a birth, a loss, something human that reminds people what actually matters underneath all the noise and the history and the hurt. Those who know Harry personally say he still loves his family deeply, that the distance causes him real pain, and that he would welcome a genuine olive branch if one were truly extended. But wanting reconciliation and being willing to do what it takes to make it happen are two very different things. And right now, the actions on both sides suggest that neither party is quite ready to make the first real move. The public statements stay carefully neutral. The private channels, if they exist at all, aren't producing any visible results. And the gap keeps quietly growing while the world watches and wonders whether this is a story with a resolution or one that just slowly fades into permanent estrangement. So here's the big question that everyone keeps coming back to: is King Charles right to keep his distance? Is he protecting the institution, his legacy, and his own peace of mind by maintaining firm boundaries with a son who very publicly challenged everything the crown stands for? Or is he making a mistake that he may one day deeply regret, letting pride and protocol get in the way of something irreplaceable? Is there a version of this story where a father and son find their way back to each other before it's truly too late? Or has too much been said, too much been done, too many lines crossed for things to ever really go back? We want to know exactly what you think. This is one of those topics where everyone has a strong opinion and every perspective matters. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are you Team Charles, standing firm and protecting the crown? Or do you think it's time for both sides to put the past behind them and find a way forward? Don't hold back, we read every single comment, and the conversation down there is always worth joining. If you made it all the way to the end of this one, first of all, respect. This was a deep one. Go ahead and hit that like button because it genuinely helps more than most people realize. Share this with someone who follows the royal drama because they need to see this breakdown. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time because there is so much more coming and you do not want to miss what's next. See you in the next one.